Lifestyle through until 3 o'clock every weekday, and Tuesday through to Friday we like to bring somebody into the studio to have a little chat about their life here in this part of the world, what they're doing here, if they've been here for a long time, if they've been brought up here. We find out all the details between now and 2 o'clock. And today I brought in a gentleman. He's very hard to pin down. We've been trying to get him into the studio for quite a while. He's a very, very busy man, so we managed to get him in today. And the truth of the story is he arrived very early, went back home, and has come here right now to be with us. Good afternoon, Chris Gordon from the village Coconut Island. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon, Steve.
Yes, and it's nice to have you here in the Phuket Live 89.5 studio. So let's just start with you personally, your love for this part of the world. When did it all start?
Well, basically, I had a company back in the 80s, which I started, and I had yachts in various parts of the Mediterranean and was looking to expand my business into an all-round location. And had a big competitor in the Caribbean, so I looked to the east. And in 86 I came out here to Thailand to explore the opportunities of starting a yacht charter company, and that's what happened, in fact.
1986, wow, that's a long time ago.
Yep, we had to get on a propeller driven aircraft from Bangkok, no jets in those days.
Wow.
Landed into Phuket, single lane road, as you can imagine. What is now the bypass road. There was no road from Patong to Surin. It was over the hills on a four-wheel drive. So a lot of changes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we can talk a little bit about the changes themselves, but that's quite a big decision to make, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously, from the part where you came from, established Europe and the Mediterranean. I wouldn't say plain sailing, see what I did there with the yachts, and obviously challenging, but did somebody plant the seed to you and say, you know, Far East and the Middle East and etc. are growing, so why don't you move out towards this part of the world? Was it that idea that sort of started you getting in this area?
As I say, I think the main thing was that I had a very strong competitor in the Caribbean, and I didn't feel I should be challenging them until I was a bit stronger. But I had a huge client base of Europeans mainly, and of course from October through to April, May, a lot of yachties were looking for somewhere warm to go sailing. So that's really what pushed me this way. I had been out here earlier on in my life in the 80s, in fact in 1980 I think it was,
wow,
when I was the national coach for the British junior sailing team.
Wow.
So that's when I first got my taste for Tom Yum Goong and these very weird dishes that of course no Brits had a clue what it was.
Yeah.
All we had was Indian takeaway in those days.
That's right. So that was a long time ago. So affiliation then with yachting and By the Sea, are you originally from By the Sea yourself?
Yes, I suppose... not from when I was born, but from as soon as I left school, I moved to the south coast of England and got qualified as a sailing instructor. Got thrown out of university after 1 year for not turning up. So I had to go and sort of do something with my life. So yes, I became a sailing instructor and started a small sailing school in a town called Emsworth on the south coast near Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, great city. Great football club. Well, was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Well, we had some fantastic time. I suppose it was going back into the 90s, really. Now, 90s, early 2000s. Certainly, the most memorable football day of my life was the FA Cup final, which I flew all the way back for.
Yeah, we were talking off mic about the football, so we won't go into that. But Portsmouth, a beautiful part of the world, and obviously from a naval point of view, establishing in that particular area certainly helped you. Did you get a lot of help in that area? Did you sort of just... was it something that ran in the family anyway?
Well, my grandfather built me a boat when I was 7 years old, and that's how I really got into boating. Hadn't got a clue about it before that, but obviously had to use this boat that he built me. So I got pushed off when I think I was turned 8 by the time I actually got into the thing, shoved off into the River Hamble, for those that know that south coast area. And there was a World Championships going on, in which my parents obviously hadn't got a clue. Entered me for it, even though I'd never been in a boat. And the next thing, I was being picked up by some boat because I hadn't got a clue what I was doing.
Right.
That was about it for the next 2 or 3 years. I was scared stiff after that.
To go back in the water.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting competitive business that you're in there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you're doing these days very, very shortly. But do you still actually get out and do some yachting yourself now?
Oh, I love being out on the water. I mean, to be honest, I can't even live away from the water. You know, there's got to be water near me. So it's very much in my blood. I like to get out at the weekends. Obviously, this time of year, the weather's not so good. But I have a speedboat which doesn't seem to work very well at times, and I also have a yacht, which of course is also a problem. But they're just like women, really, aren't they? They're just always playing you up.
You said that, not me. Otherwise, I'll get into trouble. We're having a little chat here with Chris Gordon in the studio from the village Coconut Island. That was a little bit of a backdrop of what he is about, and we should be talking about the present environment here in Phuket and how things are changing as rapidly as he said. And we'll be talking with him between now and 2 o'clock here on Phuket's Live 89.5.
Live 89.5. It's where you live.
So let's talk about your favourite music. What kind of music do you like then?
Oh, that's a tough one. It depends a little bit where one is. I mean, obviously, as I say, if I'm driving around Phuket, avoiding motorbikes and taxi vans weaving in and out of each other, one needs a little bit of upbeat music to keep you going.
So you should be listening to this radio station.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're not doing that, what kind of music do you listen to?
I suppose most of the time, if I'm sitting down reading a book or something like that, I'm very much into the sort of the Buddha Bar, Cafe Del Mar type of music. Easy listening. Don't have to work too hard on it. But as I say, driving a car, or I quite like even some of the the modern day pop music. If I'm out for an evening in a bar, or even going down to Patong for a boys' night out, quite enjoy some of the modern music. Not too keen on what I call repetitive music.
Okay, well, thankfully you don't get that on this station, honestly. 25 to 2, we're talking with Chris Gordon, who's in the studio today on Lifestyle. Between 1 and 2, we do this on a daily basis. Chris, he's just been telling us about where he got to and coming back to his love of actually being involved with Thailand. So you spent a little bit of time back in the UK and back in London and trying to sort of re-establish yourself there at first, and then decided, that's it, I've had enough and I'm off again. Was that the story?
Well, it's sort of like that, yes. I mean, basically life, it's a bit like the hamster in the wheel, isn't it? I started the business back in 82, a company called Sunsail, and developed that around the world with, I think we had about 25 offices and 35 locations by the time I actually sold it on. So that, as I say, took me all around the world, probably 10 days a month at least in aeroplanes. And then once I sold the business to First Choice PLC, I joined the main board for 4 years. But as I say, being a sort of an entrepreneurial type character, slowly found myself wearing a suit and a jacket and a tie far too often, doing 5-year rolling budgets, and you can name it all then. So that's when I basically decided back in 2004, time to sort of look for a second career, I guess.
And what was that second career?
Second career was a little bit awkward in the sense that I wanted to move out here and develop a business here in Thailand, because obviously I'd been in and out regularly over the years previously, running, checking up on the base out here. But my wife wasn't so keen on the idea. So I guess we obviously ended up living separately, let's use those words, but we're still good friends, and I go back to England and stay in the family house, admittedly in the spare room, and usually make her a cup of tea in the morning, and she makes me a cup of coffee once she's got up. So, we still have a bit like a husband-wife relationship at length. But no, it works out all right. My kids are old enough now not to sort of be too stressed out about it all. In fact, 3 of them are here at the moment. One's working in the business.
And why wouldn't they be? You know what I mean? Dad's in Phuket. We'll go there then.
Yeah, well, sometimes.
It's either Butlin to Petheli or Phuket,
Well, I think they're lucky enough that they realise how terrible the weather is in the UK and the economy and Europe. It's just not somewhere I think I'm never going back anyhow. This is now my home. Okay,
well, let's just quickly touch on that. Europe itself, I mean, it's a difficult times for Europe. I mean, but it has a knock-on effect for UK, because obviously UK is in Europe, but there's that wave heading in from Europe, from Spain, from Greece, and they're in a lot of trouble. And I heard recently that Cyprus have decided that we need some money. It's a bad situation, isn't it?
I mean, I think it is. I say, one of the funny things, I'm not going to say how old I am, but over the years I've been in business, every time there seems to be a sort of a crisis in the economies of the world, or Europe, or wherever it is, it always seems to me that Britain goes down first, but usually gets its act sorted out and comes out first. So I'm actually, let's say, more positive about Britain, especially as we're not part of the Euro, in terms of it coming out and getting some form of growth going forwards, than I am for the rest of Europe.
It was one heck of a decision not to be part of that as well, and it seems to have been the right one at this stage.
Oh, it's been vindicated time and again, that has.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously Chris is very much a businessman, and he decided to up sticks and do something a little bit different in 2004. So I want to talk about the village Coconut Island. Very impressed by the website. I think you've got everything spot on there. And I think it looks, as one of the things say on it, one of the recommendations there, a perfect holiday. It's not just so much a holiday for people from abroad. People are using it here in this part of the world as well, aren't they?
Oh, for us now, I think we're probably running at 60 to 70% of our customers are effectively Asian. I think that's going to grow. I think the Chinese market is just going to go crazy.
2015 is going to be a big year, isn't it?
Well, that's going to make a difference because obviously free movement of labour. It'd be interesting to see how that works here. But that's the theory. I think Thailand really needs to wake up as a country to making sure that they educate their kids at a much earlier age as to the importance of speaking English and out here Chinese. I mean, that's going to be major. But if you've got English, you can cover most travelling tourists. Obviously Russians are a bit of a problem, but speak Chinese and you're covering a lot of this part of the world, speak English and you're covering most of the rest of the world. So those two languages, every hotel or resort or even restaurants needs to start addressing this, and it's been very slow starting here, and I think they're going to find a big problem in a couple of years' time when Malaysians and Indonesians who speak English as a second language will be looking for jobs here.
It's interesting you should say about from your own experiences and love of this part of the world, especially Asia. And I think one of the things that's hit me since I've been here, I've always wanted to work in Asia. I've only been here a short time, just over 3 months, is the hospitality and the love and the warmth of the people here. But there's real family values as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe Asia has survived and sort of not spent, let's put it that way. I mean, you and me are of an age when, what you had in your pocket you spent and you didn't have any more. And I think that's one of the problems with the world in Europe, especially, Europe's side of the world. Here, it's developing and still people are still a little bit, sometimes a bit worried about spending a little bit more when they haven't got it, i.e. credit. Or they'll work towards that credit to make sure it's all sorted out. And that's the beauty of Asia, especially when you're coming in from China, etc. They're sort of the money that they've got in their pockets, the ones they're spending as well, and the extra bit of money they're earning.
Well, yes. I mean, I think one of the problems for Europe is that it's not just the consumer that's borrowed, but the countries are borrowed. So the whole of the system over there is in huge debt. And if you don't have growth, it's very difficult to get out of that cycle of can't pay the bills. Look at all the countries of Europe now and lots of people with houses and credit cards. The only good thing this time is that because the interest rates are so low, most of the people in the UK, for example, who probably are potentially looking at a negative equity value, they aren't having to fund it at 10%, which of course if they did, 10, 15 years ago, they just walked away. But the good thing out here, as you say, I mean, the Thai banks are incredibly strong. They had their crisis probably 15 years ago when they'd overlent, and now if you look at the Thai banks, they're very, very secure on lending, and they pay nothing on interest deposit. You're lucky if you get 1 or 2% on deposit with a Thai bank, but you're paying 6, 7, 8%, so their margin is good.
So Phuket itself, and obviously the village Coconut Island, big part of that. Tell us a little bit more how that started.
Yeah,
we've only got till 2:00, by the way.
Yeah, well, accidents do happen in life, don't they? Well, I was out here the month after the tsunami happened. I was actually out here during the tsunami, but that's a story for another time. So anyhow, I was out here sort of tidying up details as to various things that had gone on, and I was accidentally had a couple of gin and tonics too much in the Watermark near Boat Lagoon, and a friend of mine, now a friend, I'm not sure why, said that he just lost this deal with some Chinese people because of the tsunami, and he got this great piece of land and this, that and the other. And he showed me the pictures, and next day I got a long-tail boat out to Coconut Island and walked along the beach and thought, wow, this is a good spot, and it's going to. And to me, it was partly a case of it was going to, because it was on an island, literally just off the shore of Phuket. The risk of it becoming spoilt in the way that parts of Phuket now have become spoilt was a lot further down the line, if ever.
Wow. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the village Coconut Island when we come back very shortly and speak to Chris Gordon here on Phuket's Live 89.5.
Live 89.5. Your island, your station.
Good afternoon to you, Steve, on Lifestyle through until 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's been having a great pleasure having this guy in the studio talking about everything and all sorts. And I think we should talk a little bit now about the latest venture, which is the Village Coconut Island. Chris Gordon's in the studio to talk to us here on Lifestyle for this Tuesday afternoon. So you said you sort of spoke to this guy, he's now your friend, and then this whole concept came up about this Coconut Island. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, as I say, basically, literally within days, I signed a contract to buy that land. It was 75 rai of land on Coconut Island. A fantastic spot. Didn't at that time have a clue what I was going to do with it. Still really sorting out life after the tsunami. Originally thought maybe land bank it, but that's not really the way I do things. I like to create things, develop things. So came up with a master plan really to create what was my idea of an English village, where you have everything from the corner shop to the pub, all surrounded by where people live. So that was the idea that we put together. Originally it started out as purely a villa type of project, because in those days the market was so strong you could sell villas to almost anybody. But obviously 3 or 4 years ago the world changed, so we had to stop development, and obviously since then we've changed the product slightly, but the original concept still stands.
So the uninitiated like myself, exactly tell us where it is then.
Right, well, if you go down Bypass Road, you go past Boat Lagoon, don't turn right at Toyota, keep going towards Phuket town, and you go up a little hill, which a few zigzag bends, and on the top of that there's a whole lot of signs. Turn left down there, it takes you to the pier down at Lam Hin. Some people probably know Lam Hin for its floating seafood restaurants. Great places to spend a Sunday afternoon. But that's also the dock at which we take our clients over. It's literally a 3, 4, 5 minute boat ride depending on the tide. Sometimes we take them direct to the front pier if the tides are fine or it's not too rough, or else we use the back pier and we use golf buggies and tuk-tuks to get them to the resort. So it's probably 10 minutes all in all from one pier to the lobby.
How's the market then? I mean, it's very competitive in this part of the world now. People come up with new ideas and do things, and things seem to get built very quickly or change hands, etc., revamped. I mean, is it a good time?
I think the answer to that is it's been a pretty torrid time for the last few years. Obviously, the Chinese Asian market is still fairly immature. The European market was falling off a cliff. Phuket's numbers are going up, but the rates have gone down. I think the rates are never going to go back to where they were in the halcyon days. It's just not going to happen because there's a lot more 4, 3 to 1 star type properties, whereas Phuket originally was mainly 4, 5 star properties.
Right.
So the mix is changing. You've got AirAsia, fantastic airline, comes in here, but you fly in here from Singapore now for 5,000 baht round trip. So it opens the door to a far huger type of client base than the old days.
And a lot of more competitive airlines are doing the same thing as well.
It's only going to carry on. I mean, Phuket Airport's going to be expanded, and really I see Phuket, and I use the word Phang Nga Bay because it's not just Phuket. It's this area is just unique in Asia. It's a bit like the sort of the Côte d'Azur in the south of France.
Right.
And if you imagine what 250 million Europeans have managed to do to the Mediterranean coastline over the last 50 years, well, imagine what 2.5 billion Chinese and Indians are going to do to the amount of coastline there is out here, which is actually less. So Phuket is up there. It'll probably, as long as the authorities understand that this place has huge potential, but it needs to be some management issues need to be sorted out, whether it's crime, tuk-tuk drivers, or transportation. This place has got a big future, but it's not going to be just a 5-star resort location anymore. It's going to be much more mass market.
Well, it's been great speaking to you today. Thank you very much indeed for coming in to speak to us. Just plug the website for us. Forget all the W's, but go straight to the URL address for us then.
Oh, it's so flipping long, I'm not sure I can remember it.
The Village. Yeah, I got it.
thevillage-coconutisland.com.
And it looks superb, and good luck to you for the new season coming up as well. And hopefully we'll get you back in the studio to talk more in the future.